Greetings, yogis. This is your lecture on the core tenets of Kamili Yoga. This lecture is brief and it goes over the basic structure of the Kamili Yoga system. What we will be going over are these three essential parts. We have Kanuni Tatu, the three principles, the Ibada, excuse me, not the, but Ibada Kamili, the complete ritual, and Elimu na Hekima, education and wisdom. The first one, Kanuni Tatu, this is our tenet of philosophy. This encompasses all of the principles of the system. Ibada Kamili, the tenet of practice, is our sacred mindfulness practice of the system. And then Alimuna Hekima, this is the tenet of pursuit. This is our pursuit of Black knowledge, which is also very much as important as the practice and the philosophy. Again, these three parts are what make up the core tenets of the Kamili Yoga system. This is a visual breakdown of Kamili Yoga. Reminder that Kamili Yoga means complete union, Kamili meaning complete in Kiswahili, and yoga meaning union in Sanskrit. In proper Kiswahili grammar, this would actually be pronounced Yoga Kamili. As English speakers, we switch it around with Kamili Yoga. So as you see from the graph, we have Kanuni Tatu, three principles, and the same grammar rules apply. So Tatu means three and Kanuni means principles. If Ibada Kamili, we have the complete ritual. So Ibada is ritual or worship, Kamili meaning complete. And Elimu na Hekima, this one is actually in the same grammatical order as it would be in English. Elimu meaning education, na and Hekima, wisdom. These are, again, your three core tenets to Kamili Yoga. These three tenets are what make up the entire structure of the Kamili Yoga system. So when you are pursuing your practice, you need to include the Kanuni Tatu, Ibada Kamili, and Elimu na Hekima. So what are all of these principles? Or excuse me, what are all of these tenets? Kanuni Tatu, again, our translation is three principles, our tenet of philosophy. So our three primary principles that are Kanuni Tatu, three principles, are union with self, union with others, and union with spirit. So specifically, when we say Kanuni Tatu in Kamili Yoga, we are specifically meaning the first one, union with self, the second one, union with others, and the third one, union with spirit. These 3 points of union are the 3 principles that we mean when we say Kanuni Tatu, the 3 principles. Now, each of these have their own subset of principles, and those will be gone over in different lectures. So union with self has its own subset of principles, the personal principles. Union with others has social principles, and union with spirit has spiritual principles. There are also components such as the 5 dimensions of the soul self, community philosophies, and expressions of faith that go under each one of these. So this tenet is the most complex tenet of Kamili Yoga because we start again with Kanuni Tatu, and then we have a breakdown of those 3 principles, and then we have a further breakdown for each individual principle with secondary principles. So again, there are different lectures that will deal with those. You will not be overwhelmed with that entire structure right now. This is just an introduction to get you started, or also a place of review before you go deeper. Next, we have our second tenet, Ibada Kamili, the complete ritual. Again, this is our tenet of practice, our sacred mindfulness practice. There are 5 aspects or 5 components that create the entire practice of Ibada Kamili. Takatifu, honor the sacred. Pumzi, center the breath. Guvu, focus on energy. Mwendo, freedom of motion. And Kutafakari, reflection and meditation. Each of these first words are again Kiswahili, or not again, but also Kiswahili. But the translation is not the exact same as what you see on the screen. So Takatifu does not literally mean honor the sacred. Takatifu actually literally means sacred, divine, holy. Pumzi means breath. Guvu means energy, power, strength. Mwendo means motion, such as your body motion. And Kutafakari means meditation, literally. So each of these parts that have the English helps you to remember what the step is. So the first step when we are engaging with Takatifu, the sacred, we are honoring the sacred. We welcome in spirit, we welcome in ancestors at the beginning of our practice. And this is highly important because this is what actually makes it a ritual. A ritual is centered around spirit, centered around God. Rituals play a huge role in African cosmologies and spiritual practices. So that is why ritual is a big part of Kamili Yoga. That is why it is a complete tenet that is part of the structure. So we begin with honoring the sacred. We expand next into centering the breath, making sure that you are centered on your inhales and your exhales. Then you expand next into focusing on your inner energy, channeling your energy throughout your entire being. And then we come into the actual motion. You can see that this is the next to last step. So Ibada Kamili is not a practice that focuses solely on physical movement. Many modern systems do that. They center motion, they center poses, and the tertiary or secondary characteristics are perhaps meditation or breath work. Motion is meant to help you focus on all of these steps. So when you are in motion, you are honoring the sacred, you are still centering your breath, you are still focusing on energy. And your motion is actually an expression of worship, an expression of your sacred intention for the practice. And it's for Ibada Kamili, for Kamili Yoga specifically, we use free flow. So there's not a lot of necessarily structured movement in terms of being told what to do. You're very much encouraged to listen to the guidance of spirit in your motion. And then lastly, Utapakari, reflecting in meditation. Reflecting is not kind of, excuse me, if reflection is starting with coming into stillness to listen to any messages that you did receive from spirit, that you did receive from ancestors, and then also journaling about your experience so that you have a record of your practice. Just like with Kanuni Tatu, there will be additional lectures that go into much more detail about Ibada Kamili, but this is essentially the practice and how it is done. Lastly, we have our third tenet, Elimu na Hekima, education and wisdom. This is our tenet of pursuit. This is perhaps our most loosely structured tenet. And despite being the third tenet, that does not mean that it is less important than the principles or the practice. It is all three aspects of Kamili Yoga are equally important. And Elimu na Hekima is especially important because the purpose of Kamili Yoga is to help descendants of the African continent and the African diaspora to get back to our roots that we may have lost, or most of us lost through colonization and the slave trade. So Elimu na Hekima focuses on studying African knowledge and honoring our ancestral roots. This is why Kamili Yoga specifically uses Kiswahili as is centered language outside of English, and why Adinkra symbols are a part of the system. These are examples of how we use aspects of African culture, African history, African intelligence and philosophy and spirituality to enhance our yogic practice and enhance our sense of identity, both individually and collectively. Our three approaches to study are very simple: daily, diligent, and diverse. So when it comes to Elimuna Hekima, practicing education and wisdom, you are you are encouraged to study, and not even encouraged, you are really expected as a Kamili yogi to engage in daily practice, daily study. So at least once a day, you should be engaging in something that is heightening your knowledge of your African roots. Whether that's reading a chapter in a book, whether that's watching a short documentary, no matter what it is, you are engaging intentionally in some form of African study on a daily basis. Your study should be diligent. So that means you are committed to it as well as careful and applying critical thinking skills. There's a lot of false information out there that claims to be of African origin or African inspired. And really, what it is misinformation designed to mislead. So when we are diligent, we must be critical about the sources that we are getting our knowledge from, and being committed to going deeper than just the surface level of whatever it is that we are pursuing. And then lastly, diverse study. So diverse study means going into a variety of subjects, not just the ones that you may already be familiar with or the ones that you already like. So this encourages you to explore your blind spots, areas of Black and African knowledge that you might not have ever thought about exploring, giving yourself that freedom, and really expanding what it is that you study, not necessarily all at the same time. So you don't have to study multiple subjects simultaneously, but whatever you're studying, say 1 week or 1 month, move into something else the next month or the next week or whenever you change your subjects. Uh, the expectation is not that you will become a scholar in every single subject that you study. It's simply deepening your knowledge, and in deepening our knowledge, deepening our wisdom, because wisdom is applied knowledge. And all of this comes together because centering African knowledge helps create stronger communities and a fuller sense of self. That is the ultimate goal when it comes to Elimu Nahekima. So these are the three tenets. In summary, again, Kamili Yoga is a modern system that is built upon values found throughout Pan African cultures, Pan African history. Kamili Yoga does not center just one aspect of African being. It is really meant to be a worldwide exploration of African identity. Kanuni Tatu is our first core tenet. This is what guides us with principles to develop deeper union with self, union with others, and union with spirit. Kanuni Tatu is our tenet of philosophy, and it has to deal with um, all of the all of the philosophy, of course. There are not three core principles, but three primary principles. Again, union with self, others, and spirit, and each of those have secondary principles. Ibada Kamili is our sacred mindfulness practice, and this helps to heighten holistic awareness. This helps us to go deeper into understanding ourselves, really experiencing ourselves in connection with spirit. And when you practice Ibada Kamili, in connection with others too. Remember that there are 5 components of that. Takatifu, honor the sacred. Punzi, center the breath. Guvu, focus on energy. Window, freedom of motion, and kutafakari, reflecting in meditation. And lastly, we have Elimu na Hekima. This is our studious path to reclaiming our lost and stolen heritages, again, through daily study, diligent study, and diverse study. All of these tenets, or all of these aspects of each of these tenets, are what create the Kamili Yoga system. This is the end of our lecture. Feel free, and actually you are encouraged to rewatch this lecture multiple times until you are ready to go deeper with the information to help you memorize. Repetition is the mother of learning. So the more you repeat the information to yourself, the better you will embrace it and be able to live it. So thank you for your time and attention. May this knowledge serve you well. Ashe.